Just be a little slow.
John, Ben, George, Mr. Ulrich, Mark, Benton, Nick. All right, we got our usual suspects here. Andrew, glad you guys are here. Quentin, guys, if you would please, let's just go straight to mute. And Julie is using some really trick artificial intelligence to take notes. Julie, could I ask you to publish those notes inside Slack to the group after each call that we do in the boot camp? That would be super cool. All right, so we got Andrew, we got Nick, Benton. All right, everybody's here. And all right, Mark, Mr. Ulrich, Quentin, Phil, Sam. All right, so guys, I was just talking with Ben, and this is really important for everybody. If you're short on time, the realtor marketing may not be the best way to go for you. It's always a trade-off. And so if you're super short on time as a one-man band and you need shovel-ready projects right now, number one, we need to figure out, are you a talker or are you a builder? Because the most well-run one-man companies I've seen, the highest they've ever got to was 1.5 million, a very profitable 1.5 million, but a job that the income stops when they stop working. And so if you want to build, that means we need to look to hire your sales rep, your project director. If you're a talker type, then we need to look to bring in your first project manager. And if cash flow is a concern, then what we got to do is we need to increase your ticket sizes to get you 1 or 2 large jobs that you can squat on that will simplify your operations so you can bank a little profit after we raise your prices together, because you're running the RC system, and then you reinvest your profit after you pay yourself into your, call it your draw account, to afford your first major hire. Does that make sense? And so I wouldn't pursue the realtor relationship until you can have a dedicated full-time salesperson, or at least a builder. You're a builder that's willing to work 60 hours a week, knowing that you're going to dedicate 2 hours a day to realtor support. But we're going to get into this really deeply in terms of recruiting, cash flow management, the business model. Today is a big step in that. And so what Ben and I were talking about is, in his position, instead of realtors, we want to target the structural engineers, the architects, and the interior designers to get more shovel-ready projects. Now that sounds great. You're like, Lane, why wouldn't I go that route to begin with? And the answer is because it's harder to monetize up front before it goes to build. And those projects, those plans that come from those architects and those designers, they still need to be debugged so that you make them airtight. That way there are no change orders before we go to build. That's one of the biggest things I'm going to teach you in this business model over the next 3 weeks. That's the secret, is by debugging these projects and making sure what is drawn is cited in the scope of work of the specifications and selections, and vice versa, that what's cited in the specifications and selections is reflected in the drawings. And we need to make it very clear in your bids. A bid is a legal term, meaning not an estimate. Estimates are mushy. Estimates can change. Bids are not. They're fixed. In your bids, you need to make it very clear that what is not that what isn't both reflected in the drawings and cited in the scope of work with the specs and selections. If it's not in both, it's not getting built. This is how you protect yourself from having to eat customer generated change orders because of vagary in your contract, which which the customer is absolutely correct. If it's shown in the drawings without that language in your contract, they're working off the assumption that that was what is getting built, and they have a very strong argument, especially in court, that you induced them into this contract, and so you need to stand behind what was drawn but maybe not cited. And so in our pre-construction, we need to make sure that what's drawn is reflected in the scope of work. What's reflected in the scope of work is drawn, and all of that is captured in your internal estimate before you turn it into an external bid. Does that make sense, guys? Give me a 2 if you're tracking with me. Cool, right? This is going to save you so much heartache and lost profit. All right. So now that we've got past that, now getting back to Ben, for Ben's individual situation, being, his skill set is oriented towards being a builder and not having a lot of time. Number one, we need to go up market. His average ticket right now is somewhere between 30 and 70K. It needs to be closer to 200K, right? Or at the very least 150. If all we did was change his marketing to go after bigger projects, his life is going to be a lot easier because he has less projects to track, less projects to set up, less projects to close out. Does that make sense, guys? That's why I love additions so very much. Huge gulps of revenue. One customer to deal with. Now, so getting back to by staying away from the realtors, because that's going to create a demand on his time that Ben specifically can't afford right now and won't be able to afford until he hires his first project director. That's going to force us to position our outbound email and our social outreach and our blitzes to engineers, architects, and interior designers. So bringing this all back full circle, instead of selling a design agreement, which this whole week is going to be about selling a design agreement and I wouldn't call it a modified design agreement unless the customer brings plans to you that's not from one of your referral relationships. So we're going to make that distinction really quickly. What Ben is going to monetize up front, and we're going to call this a pre-construction feasibility package. And they're going to be like, what the fuck does that mean? And then you're going to repeat exactly what I just said at the beginning of this call, that we're going to make sure that the design, the drawings match the scope of work, the specifications and selections, and vice versa. And if there's any discrepancies, if there's any vagaries that could result in a change order, the way this process works is I'm going to create your risk report. And then we're going to go back to the designer or the interior designer or the architect or the engineer to give, don't say the word correct, but to complete the detail. Use that phrase, complete the detail. And you're going to, and in a separate conversation away from the homeowner, you're going to explain to these people, hey, in this package, I'm going to find what we just described, any discrepancies between the drawings and the scope of work and vice versa. And then I'm going to turn around and pay you to fix them. And the homeowner, without telling the homeowner you made a mistake, all we're doing is tightening it up. And they're going to be like, great, I'm getting paid. Cool. They were, because in their mind, they're thinking, well, I would have had to fix that for free. Now you're getting me paid. Cool. I like you. And then that's going to become a nuke, Ben. We're going to create a nuke around this concept right here, the pre-construction feasibility package. And so that's how, and again, we're going to do it on a retainer. I would prefer you charge a retainer up front. Some of you are going to be in markets where as you come up, maybe there's some head trash preventing you from doing that. At the very least, we bill weekly and it's due weekly, right? So the designer submits to you the hours or architect or engineer that they spent fixing the deal. You calculate your hours ripping the deal up, or I'm sorry, creating the risk report, and then you just slap your billable rate on that. In Raleigh Durham, we charge $200 an hour. Most of the markets I advise on are charging $200 an hour. And what that does is that allows you basically to afford anybody except a licensed architect to make these fixes. And you just negotiate with the licensed, whoever your referral partner is. Hey, I'll give you $150 an hour just to make these corrections, instead of you eating it. And that's how you're going to phrase it, instead of you eating it. So at least you get paid something for the added homework I create. And so you tell them like, hey, I'd recommend you just have your junior guy on staff do this so that you can turn a profit as well. Does that make sense, guys? Everybody, Ben, is that pretty clear in terms of how we're going to monetize these referrals from engineers, architects, and designers when there's already a plan in place and you don't want to burn or offend the referral partner, but you still need to monetize the deal before it goes to build? Ben, you with me? Okay. Guys, are you guys tracking along? Give me a oh, here's Ben.
Yep. Yeah, it is. Sorry, my phone's.
Hey, no worries. Guys, give me
that makes sense. I think I'll have to kind of investigate how that works here. I know there's a number of architects and stuff here. We'll have to kind of look at what options there are with that. A lot of them are kind of tied pretty closely to certain builders, so it's a little bit of a trick to get that lined up, but I think it's possible.
Sure. Well, and you said the magic word builder. This is remodeling. And so unless those builders are taking jobs as small as a kitchen remodel, you have a way to get a foot in the door. And we're gonna go over this. We're gonna go over that on Wednesday. So today we're gonna talk about the qualification call. I'm gonna Julie says, can I give an example of a designer in this situation? So a designer brings you a set of drawings and a scope of work and wants you to bid the job because they feel they're done. Okay, great. So what we're going to do is explain to before we receive that referral, we're going to have a meeting with the designer, saying how we're going to work with them. That when we receive a referral, before we charge the homeowner anything, we do a don't call a risk report, call a plan review to identify any areas that need additional detail in order to guarantee the plan is change order free, barring unforeseen site conditions inside the walls. And that if the homeowner decides to move forward, you'll pay them for the fix. Does that make sense, Julie? And then at the end of this pre-construction feasibility process package, they then get a firm fixed price bid with all our different nukes, the price guarantee, etc. Cool. All right. Okay. So Ben said this pre-con feasibility package is the comprehensive design that is reviewed to make sure. No, we will make sure all the details are checked because they're the ones that brought you that referral, Ben. Now, the kissing cousin to this. Now we're getting into some really advanced stuff, but I had to call an audible for Ben's case because of some constraints he has in his business. But let's say a homeowner brings you a set of plans that they say are quote done. and that the architect or the designer associated with those plans is not one of your referral relations. This is a scenario we call rip and replace. So what you're instead of calling it a completion report or whatever, you're going to call this a risk report, and we're going to go through that quote unquote completed set of plans and identify everything that could contribute to a change order. Discrepancies between scope of work and drawings, incomplete detail in the scope of work. And what I mean by that is everything that's drawn, the scope of work should lay out material, type, and the exact selection, right? So the specification, which is the type and quantity, and the selection, the model, the color, the pattern, the quality, etc. And it should also include means. In other words, how is this being installed, right? It specifically, if like this was tile, it'd be like, white, dowel tile, white, subway tile, the measurements done in a herringbone. Okay, that's legitimate, but we want to see that level of detail all the way through every single trade. So you go through the drawings and you make sure everything that's on those drawings is in the spec sheet, and that it has what we call means and material. In other words, exactly what's being installed down to the model number. Right. This is for when the design is externally sourced. Exactly right, Benton. Now, and this is also this risk report. So all it is how we use this tool. Did this come from a referral relationship? Then it's a pre-construction feasibility package in order to ensure that the plans are quote change order potential free. If it's coming from outside your referral relationships, if you're doing this outside the referral relationships, then what I would do is rip and replace. And instead of it being a pre-construction feasibility package, you're calling this a risk report because this is contentious. We're trying to win this deal away by showing everything that's wrong in these plans so that we can then sell them what's called a modified design agreement. So instead, right? So, and by modified, what all that means is we're not hitting them for the full-throated retainer. The retainer is meaningless because it's a retainer. We're billing it on an hourly basis, right? Follow me? So by a modified design agreement, we're taking ownership of those plans away from whoever created them into our company and using our people to finish them. Does that make sense, Benton? It's just a question of who's going to do it and how we're going to structure the pay. And so that's why you guys have a full year of business development school, which is an hour every day to bring your pre-sale problems to me to solve, because this is not something you're gonna master in a 28-day boot camp. So everybody, like, calm down. We'll solve this on a case-by-case basis over the course of this next year. Yeah, business development school is the sales school for the boot campers, not the remodel. The remodel commanders have their own sales school. I keep these populations separate because they have different levels of understanding. Yep. And so Julie asks, the designer writes this because I'm doing this now and it's time consuming. I don't like the designer to do this. Inside CQC, I actually have the construction director and the project director. And if the project director doesn't have time, and honestly, the project director usually doesn't have construction shops. So the right answer is the assigned project manager who's going to build the job is responsible for debugging it with the risk report. Right? Because we need somebody who understands how to build. The reason why we have gaps in design is because these designers don't know how to build. So it doesn't make sense to just use another designer to check the work of an existing designer. Does that make sense? We want a field guy, specifically a project manager, to go cost code by cost code. Yeah, when you hear me use the word cost code, I mean trade by trade through the plans and the selections, and literally write down everything that confuses him or is inaccurate or is incomplete. And then from there, we then figure out what would that cost in a change order based on how our contract is written. Right. And so then they can see, holy shit, I'm fixing to walk in on 40 plus grand of change orders on a $150,000 project. Oh, hell no. And if you want living testimony, so Benton says we need to have a solid agreement with our subs, holding them to perform per their review. Absolutely, Benton. But this isn't your subs reviewing this. This is your project manager. So that's why in Ben's case, the pointed question I want you all to ask yourselves is, am I going to be the talker or am I going to be the builder? Because you can't be both. It's impossible to be both. So Nick said, the job we're on now, I was brought in after many things were decided. After 3 measurements by others, I found a 6-inch discrepancy after my review. It would have affected 3 trades and major modification. Yeah, see, Nick, that's genius. And so then what you want to do is spell out everything that's affected and the cost implications if they would have went straight into build. And the amount of trust you guys are going to build doing this as part of your sales process, which we're going to go into here. The amount of trust at that point, it's shut up and take my money, right? Because the only thing rarer than a competent, transparent, and trustworthy contractor is an honest politician. So Julie says, how do we get our subs to write more detailed bids? We don't. Julie, that's you're getting a chicken to fly by asking a subcontractor to write out an airtight bid for his scope of work. The onus is going to be on us as the general contractor. If you want to get the best subs out there and also get the best pricing, we need to be the least hassle GC to work for. And part of that is writing out what the take are going to be for all their material, which is fine. We already did that in our estimate. We know what the takeoffs are. So what we're going to do with our subcontractors is they're going to work off of a master subcontract agreement, and we're going to issue them work orders. And in that work order, it's going to state the takeoff, right? So the copy of the plans, their portion of the scope of work, which has the specifications and the selections, literally cut and paste from the plans, and then tell them what the estimated start date is going to be and when we need to have them finished by. And then also the price we want to pay for this. And then we tell our subs, all you have to do is email me back, yes, I can do it, or no, I can't. And if the answer is no, I can't, then you tell me the price you need. And then what we do is we go through all of our subcontractor. If we don't get somebody that we trust to say yes, then we go to the lowest no and negotiate with him, whether it's a volume deal or we backboard him off of a cheaper bid that we just don't trust to meet us in the middle. This is how we manufacture grippage during the estimating process. This is estimating. Like we don't need to know production rates. All we need to know is takeoffs, quantities. That's all we need to know is quantities. And then from there, figure out what can we afford in this project for this trade. And then it's the sub's responsibility to figure out, can I make money off this or not? Right. And so Benton says we give them the first number to respond to as opposed to asking for bids. Exactly. Because these guys are not sophisticated business people, y'all. If they were, they would be us. Right? So yeah, let's cut them some slack. This is the way we serve them, is essentially, yeah, by doing the homework for them in the sense of, hey, here's the drawings, here's your scope of work with your takeoffs. This is the price, this is the budget I have, you know, for you on this project. Can you do it or not? And everything will be subject to what we call a trades day. So all the guys that say that once we agree to pricing with our subs, then we invite them to a trades day. And the only reason they're there, it's not to bid the job. It's just to verify the existing conditions will allow them to support their bid that they said yes to. Does that make sense, guys? Give me a 3 if that's making sense. This is Lane's Wall Street lazy, I don't really know how to build method of estimating very sharply. Okay. So you guys ready to jump into the sales process? Okay. So before we jump into Qual call, this is how our sales process goes. And the reason why, aside from wanting to capture gross profit before we start the deal, another reason why I want to monetize the homeowner relationship immediately is to create, it's to separate out the negotiation. I don't like to negotiate against myself. I damn sure don't like to negotiate against competitors. What I want to do is get in a situation where the homeowner is negotiating against their wallet and their dreams. And we are just a facilitator. Does that make sense, guys? That just that distinction there. So the reason why I want to have a product that is tied to the build, in this case, the reason why I like to monetize design, which pre-construction is part of design, is to get the home. Basically, is what we're going to do is we're going to sell an insurance policy against change orders, because no homeowner wants to hear the word change order. So we're going to sell an insurance policy against change orders. So the homeowners feel that where a lot of our colleagues screw up is design is an afterthought, right? Design is a necessary evil in their minds. And so because they don't respect it, the homeowners definitely don't respect it. And so that's why they have a hard time charging $500 estimates or their BS design process, because they're not selling it right. When according to a house study, that 77% of all remodel projects go over budget, and the average project busts its budget by 18% or more, then the question is, hey, homeowner, do you feel good about that? No. Well, that's why we do these estimates, is because we are an ethical contractor. We are a change order free contractor. We do not do change orders unless you change the project or the conditions inside the walls change the project. Write that down. We are a change order free contractor. We do not issue change orders unless you change the project or what's inside the walls changes the project. Nobody, that is our policy. So for us to do that, we have to have an airtight design where everything in the drawings is inside your scope of work, and everything inside your scope of work is in the drawings, and that my bid covers everything. And at this stage in the game, that is impossible to give you until we go through the design process and the pre-construction process. And I can't do that for free. But what I can do, and I purposely priced this below an interior designer or an architect, specifically to influence you, to allow me to run your design process, because the design professionals do not know what they don't know about construction. And that leads to gaps in the design process, which then leads to why 77% of remodels go over budget. Does that make sense, homeowner? Oh, yeah, Lane, that makes sense. And I was like, right. And because the designers and the architects make their living off of design agreements, and they're motivated, like their money motivator is to make you happy. Their job is literally to take your dream and put it on paper. It isn't to fit your dream inside your wallet. And that's why we get in trouble. That's why I hate falling in on designs that I didn't do, because now I own your disappointment with the fact that the architect who literally drew you a swimming pool in your attic, it can't be done for less than 120 grand when your budget was 30. Does that make sense? And they're like, okay, that makes sense. And I said, right. So that's why our policy is we don't build what we didn't draw. And what I mean by that is we don't build what we weren't last to draw. And they'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And so, and again, you tie that back to what the homeowner's getting out of this, which is a change order free project with a guaranteed firm fixed price that it won't exceed, with a guaranteed completion date. And if you want to throw in more nukes, guaranteed best price. You guys know all my nukes. But does that make sense, guys? Why, the distinction for how we're going to sell design? We're not selling design. We're selling certainty. We're selling insurance against the project going over budget. It's just that the design is the vehicle to deliver that. Does that make sense, guys? So Benton says, even when working with interior designer, we always have a design audit fee. Exactly. And John said, trying to work this on a new build right now. Hell yes, John. I love this. So guys, like conceptually, do you understand the angle at which we're selling our pre-construction services now? If you need more clarification, hit me with a question, because I'm going to jump into the sales process next. If everybody's good, give me a 4. Cool. Okay. So this is actually a 5-step process. All right. It could, gonna DM you later about this. Okay, cool, John. Happy to help. This is a 3-step process when you have this mastered. When your marketing is on point, this is a 3-meeting process. If anything isn't in alignment, whether customer expectations, customer qualification, etc., then it's going to create a 5-meeting appointment, and I'm gonna go through that. And so those 5 steps, if something is not right, we start with the qualification call. That's when the lead comes in and we set our site visit appointment. Then we go do our site visit. It's not, I mean, the site visit, all that, all you're doing is confirming the rough scope. But you have actual negotiating duties that requisites that you have to hit in order to set this deal up. And this is where your colleagues all screw up, because they start trying to talk numbers on the site visit when that's your first date. Again, that's like walking into a bar and just asking everybody who suits your fancy to get married. I mean, a blind squirrel does find a nut every once in a while, but we want to be very intentional, because none of you are swimming in time yet. Agreed? So, and then once you've done your site visit, you're going to set another appointment to present your budget and concept design. That it's not a consultation, it's not a sales call, it's not an estimate. It's a budget and concept design. BCD. Remember that. It's going to come back. It's going to come back Wednesday. And at the end, and I'm going to teach you how to create leverage inside your BCD when you're presenting to push the homeowner to make a prompt decision. Because not making a decision is a decision, and it's the default decision when you don't know how to make a decision. That sounds like Dr. Seuss right there. But what I mean by that is we do remodel all day. We do construction all day. We do paint, we do flooring all freaking day. This is likely the first time and probably the only time this homeowner is going to do something like this. They are not experts. And because they're not experts, and because there's so much on the line, because when you start doing this RC style, your average tickets are going to migrate above 100 grand, right? A lot is at stake here for them. So not only are they not familiar with the process, a lot is at stake. And so, put yourself in their shoes. What's the first thing you would do? Delay. Seek more information. Because we all, as human beings, we have this internal drive to seek more information when we're trying to make a decision, when we don't even know what we're deciding. And it's crazy because you don't need more time. You need better information and a framework for understanding that information. And that's what we're doing with our design, with our BCD, is to give them better information and a framework to make a decision. We are literally going to educate them on how to make a decision, reverse engineering this so that when you do this process right, guys, the only time you hear no is if the customer legitimately cannot afford you. That's the only reason they're going to say no. If you execute this by the numbers, give me a 5 if you understand that. You execute this by the numbers, the only time you hear no is if they legitimately can't afford you. You will not be outcompeted this way. Now, what will happen though, is very rarely are they going to outright say, I can't afford this. The number one objection you're going to get is, I need to think about it. Who here has heard that before? I need to think about it. All the time. They need to think about it because they lack clarity on how to make a correct decision. And they're doing that to de-escalate the situation, take the pressure off, because they know they need to set a decision. So Thursday, I'm going to teach you my ninja trick to steamroll that objection and get a firm appointment on the books for you to close. And in the process of handling that objection of, I need to think about it, you're going to learn what the real problem is. And then from there, that will buy you time to figure out if you can meet them at their budget, because they're never going to say, oh, I can't afford it. The more honest ones will be like, I was expecting this to be closer to blank. Well, if their number is not in the same ballpark as yours, then you know they're broke. Still go through the process because they may magically find money. But if they are within your ballpark, then now that's bought you time, and I'll teach you how to do this ethically with price integrity, to bring down, to revise your budget, your budget range expectations, so that they're comfortable with it, so that they'll close. Because remember, where all of my project directors that screw up at this, guys, they're trying to sell a build contract right here when we don't even have completed designs. And so that budget range, we are literally arguing over something that's just flipping meaningless right now. So that's why we're selling insurance against their budget being busted. And we're going to use the BCD and our objection handling process to very tastefully learn what their budget is, and then sell them the insurance policy that is your design package. Then we're going to rely on the design package where we're not competing against anybody. And the homeowner is then making trade-off decisions between their budget and their dreams. It's not us. And so what happens is the design package is the one that actually sells them the build job. 95 out right now, we're batting 96% of sold design estimates into build using this process. And what's really interesting is that budget range we give them. For example, if I told Sam, yeah, Sam, your addition is going to be somewhere between 300 and 400 grand. It's 100% going to be a few ticks shy of 400. I already know this because I do this every day, right? The homeowner, all they hear is the low end of the range. And what's really funny during the design process, they actually bloat the design through their decisions and find the budget to afford something at 450 because there are little bells and whistles that they absolutely had to have. But that kind of emotional decision making, we can't influence in one call. It's too complex. There's too many decisions. Hell, there's 45 different cost codes we got to get through. So sell the insurance policy, and it's not even against a change order. If you really want to get down to brass tacks on this, that design is their insurance policy against busting their budget. Does that make sense, guys? Give me a 9 if you're tracking with me. Yep. All right. Is everybody seeing the matrix here? How to do, like, is anybody learning something new? Like, yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do here. So now let's get into the qual call, shall we? We're going to get tactical. This might be a little bit of a longer day. I'm sorry, but this is my favorite part of boot camp, guys. If you can't tell, yeah. But all right. So I'm going to pull up lead to build SOP. Let me pause my share real quick. It's not that I don't want to show you this stuff. It's just I never quite know what's going to come up on my screen. All right, so go to my drive. All right, we're going to go to inside remodel commanders, resume share, RC 1.5, training, sprints, lead to build. All right, qual call. And here we have it. I've already got the training lined out for you guys to watch. This is actual real remodel commander training. So I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but let's go over the qual call. So your tone, your command presence. I call this the confused senior citizen, right? You're going to ask questions in the most innocent manner because you're confused or you're trying to get clarity. If you master that tone of voice during the qual call and the site visit, you are going to do so well at getting negotiating leverage for when it's time to close. Okay. So take the edge off. Yeah. Leave the commission breath, like maybe Papa Mentos. I don't know. Like the point is all we're asking questions because we genuinely want to know, right? We're not trying to sell something yet. Okay. So when you get on the phone with them, hey, Sam, this is Lane from Persinger Construction. You recently requested more information from us to explore a possible remodel project. This is for people that come in from the leads. Or if it's a referral from a realtor, either way, you're responding to an inbound lead. Now, this is my favorite question, guys. Always use this. I'm curious, have you found what you're looking for yet? Because you don't even know if you can help these people, and you don't know what they're looking for. And so from here, this is when they'll be like, oh my God, thank you for contacting me. You're the first contractor to return my call. So, hey, Karen, this is Lane from Bolin Construction. You recently requested some information on our website, or you recently were using our calculator tool, or you recently submitted a request for a budget and concept design. I'm curious, have you found what you're looking for yet? Well, okay, well, the purpose of my call is pretty basic. It's really more for us to understand what you would like to explore potentially building, using really soft language there, explore potentially building, and understand what you have in place to achieve that end. And afterwards, I can answer your questions and make recommendations and potentially set an appointment to visit your job site in order to provide you with a refined concept or budget concept design if you think we're a fit. Fair enough? Guys, how much more different than that is the standard appointment setting script of, I have X date available and X date available to come do the site visit. And I'm going to ask you some questions to make sure that you're a fit for us. Yeah, fuck that. You are a servant to this person in this situation. Okay. So that caring, slow tone of voice, it reassures people that that you're there to take care of them. You're thorough. That means you can be trusted. You're safe. Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down? Slow down, lower your tone, like make them feel the care in your voice. Okay. And at this point, we are by no means, and what we're doing is we're putting the ball in their court. And what we're saying is, I don't know if I can even help you yet. Okay. Yeah, Mark says, I feel like I need a glass of warm milk. Yes, you do. So Julie says, how soon after inquiry in this first phone call? If you can get to the phone within 5 minutes of the lead, your lead to appointment set ratio goes to about 50%. If you wait it's going to drop to about 1 in 10, 1 in 5, right? Especially with these calculator leads, you got to strike while the iron's hot. Don't do it immediately. Give it 5 minutes. Okay. That's key. Super key. So now we get to the bridge. So Jada, I see you're potentially looking to build an addition to your home. What thought have you given to how you want to do that? Super open-ended question. They're gonna be like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, so I'm curious, like, what exactly are we building? And what purpose is this going to solve? And then they're like, oh yeah, so my mother-in-law is moving in and I need to create an addition because we have a 3-bedroom house. Or yeah, we're empty nesters and so now that the kids are gone, we want to create our forever home. Or yeah, we're just retired and we don't want to move into a nursing home, so we need to remodel the house to make it capable of aging in place. Right? This is an open-ended question to get them to talk not only what they want to build, what they want to do, but also why. Understanding that why, now we can figure out what problem that they have that this project is going to solve. Guys, people don't buy shit just to buy shit. It's always solving a purpose. You don't pay 16 grand for a Rolex to tell time. You buy a 16 grand Rolex to say, I'm successful. And the reason why you need to tell people you're successful is because you have a problem with either your self-image or your own personal branding. Right? But do you guys see where I'm going with that? So yeah, they're building an addition, sure, but what personal problem is this solving? And there's always 3 big reasons: health, wealth, and relationships. And so we need to map it to what bucket, because that's going to dictate how we set up our BCD on Wednesday. Does this make sense, guys? This is how we methodically close deals like a killer. This is how I am like, I don't know if you guys saw the recording, but I closed a $500,000 project in 15 minutes. Again, using this process. So then if they don't give you the why, then we go straight to number 2. So Sam, why is that important right now? Just say right, even if they give you the reason. You say, so Sam, why is that important right now? And they'll be like, they'll usually give you some wishy-washy of, oh, I've been thoughting about it and it's just now time, right? We want to find out the real reason. So we're going to go one layer deeper. I totally get why Sam, I totally get why you're building an addition because your mother-in-law is moving in. And that's really important. But in particular, why is that so important right now? Why not push it off 6 months? You see, we're now drawing them in. They're now having to justify why they're on the phone with you by saying, why not push it off 6 months? I'm pushing you away. Guys, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reason. I push you away. What are you going to do? In the conversation, you're going to try and pull me in. It's just human psychology. Okay. And so then now they're going to give you the real reason. It's like, well, she's not doing well. She's sick. They're going to give you the emotional reason. So here is where they're going to give you the logical reason. This is where we're going to get the emotional reason. And people close because of emotions. They justify the purchase with logic. Does that make sense? So the reason why we're asking these questions is to give us the ammunition to help them make a decision that will best serve them. Everybody tracking so far? We are getting super high level in sales psychology here. Okay. So now we're going to say, hey, so in an ideal world, what would the design potentially look like? What other ideas do you have for this addition, for this kitchen? You know, you mentioned that you wanted to switch out the cabinets. How about the back? Go and help them answer the question. So if it's a kitchen and they say, oh, it looks like a 90s kitchen, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. So obviously we need to swap out the cabinetry. You know, what about the appliances, the countertops, the backsplash? How have you tied this all together in your mind? Oh, well, that's why I'm calling to get your help, Lane. Okay, easy. I wanted to know, to see what I'm working with here. And so then whatever their answer to that, that's not a problem. I mean, ideally, when would you want something like this completed, finished, and cleaned up, ready for you to use? This is my favorite question ever. So what we just did here, guys, we established the need. We established the need. Now we're going to establish the timeline. Because we got the emotional reason for the need. Now we're getting the timeline. We need 2 more things in order to close. We need to know the budget, and we need to know who has the authority to make the decision. Does that make sense? Yeah, you'll see a lot of sales literature that says BANT, budget, authority, need, timeline. But that's the wrong order to go across. It's very salesy like that. So we got to do a pattern interrupt and talk about the 2 pieces of that deal, or of BANT, that are important to the homeowner before and use that to logically segue into budget and authority. So we get what we need out of the conversation. Does this make sense, guys? Give me a 3 if you're still following me. So then when they answer that, it's, yeah, that's also not a problem. So any number I give you right now is absolutely meaningless until we have designs on paper. But I've built, kitchens for your neighbors as low as 50 grand and as much as 300 grand. And the difference is purely in the materials and design complexity. And so ideally for you, which end of the range should we steer the project's budget? You see what I did there? So guys, we do not allow, like, we control the conversation. Whoever, remember this, whoever asks the question has the power, right? And we already know they're always going to bring up price. So preempt that by making it your question. And notice what I did was I discredited any number they're going to see before design. So we just pissed in the Wheaties of our competition there. And we asked them, I didn't ask them what their budget was. I just asked them, like, hey, I mean, between these two crazy polar extremes, and I gave you the reason why they're so wide, what direction do we need to steer the budget? And so a baller is going to say, I just want what I want. I don't care. If it's going to cost 300, it's going to cost 300. A value conscious person, someone that you can compete and persuade, they're going to say, you know, somewhere in the middle, but I don't want to go above 200. Okay, great. And just know this, whatever number they give you guys, they always have at least 20% more. I always, all right. Now, a price conscious scrub is going to say, yeah, steer it towards the bottom, and even that's too much. And then at that point, you can say, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I can be a fit for you. Would you like me to refer you to somebody that could probably serve you in that range? And then out the door they go. We're not wasting any more time with them. Does that make sense, guys? So now I want you to use childlike curiosity with this next question. So Sam, that's not a problem. You know, I was just wondering, assuming you could build this kitchen, don't say pull off, but you could build or execute or paint or floor, assuming you could build this kitchen within, let's say they said they wanted it done by October. So assuming you could build this kitchen by October, you know, within that budget of 200 grand, I don't think you'd take my call, right? So with your current resources and team in place, how much do you think they would potentially miss your goal by? And the reason why I'm asking this is to paint in their head. They have no chance in hell of figuring this out on their own. Does that make sense? This is meant to smoke out the DIYers, because the DIYer are like, yeah, I could do it, but I just don't have time. Like, that's some posturing. That's not really that technically is a price objection when they say that. Oh, I could do this myself, I just don't have time. We're taking that away from them before they have a chance to say that with this question. And it takes some balls to ask this question. And so your tonality needs to be on point so that this isn't offensive. So, okay, that's not a problem, Sam. So, Sam, I was just wondering, I mean, assuming you could build this addition by October within 300 grand, I don't think you'd take my call, right? You're like, oh no, of course not. Make them answer that question. And like, you know, so Sam, I'm just curious. You want to use softening language. So Sam, again, I was just curious, with your current resources and team in place, if you did this, if you went ahead with this on your own, how much do you think they would potentially miss your goal? Like, oh man, I didn't know. And the only reason why we're saying, all we want them to say is, I don't know. You're like, yeah, you know, the reason why I ask is I saw this article that according to a House study in 2020, 70% of remodels go over budget and past schedule. Is this something you can live with to get a lower quote? Guys, what do you think we just accomplished with that question? What we did is we just tied what we're about to sell them, design, as the solution to the uncertainty and probability of a project going over budget and past schedule. We're making it impossible for them to trust another contractor. Does that make sense? And by saying, is that something you can live with to get a lower initial quote? What are we foreshadowing there? We're taking away the price objection, right? It's like, guys, good, fast, and free, pick two, or cheap, pick two. This is a really elegant way of smoking out what kind of customer they are. And so most of them will be like, oh, I mean, the ones that straight up say, yeah, I'm not really worried about that. They're price sensitive. And so now you can say, hey, I don't think we're going to be a fit because we are never the cheapest quote. In fact, we take pride in being the most expensive in town. Would it be helpful if I gave you a referral to a more budget-friendly contractor? That's how you respond. That's how you check them right there with that shit. When they say, yeah, I'm not really worried about that. Right? Push them away. Make them come back. Save your time. This whole conversation takes maybe 15 minutes. Right? But it's going to tee up the sale for you to you're running downhill. Whereas all your competition is now trying to fight an uphill fight. Does that make sense, guys? We are tilting the playing field in our favor, the scales in our favor. And so if they're going to say, no, that's silly. Oh my God, no, I need this done by blank, or man, my budget really has to be firm here. I'm like, right. So what we just did there is we then manufactured the need and the introduction for our design proposal that we're going to sell in our next meeting. So if they're a fit, we're going to say, okay, well, that's not a problem, Sam. The next step would, again, we're dictating to them. The next step would be to schedule an hour next week for me to meet you at the project site so I can get a better understanding of the existing conditions affecting the potential project scope in order to project for you a more accurate budget range and to refine your project concept design. Because any discussion of numbers at this point without that inspection is absolutely meaningless. And so I have Tuesday at 1600 and I have Thursday at 800 available next week. Which is your preference? Notice we didn't play the awkward calendar game. And what I explained to them, I told them what the next step was going to be. And I gave them the reason. I gave them, what's in it for them, my reason. And then I gave them the reason for the reason, which also pisses in blocks the what's this going to cost objection that before it's time to have that discussion, before you've had a chance to build value in order to create a gap between what they can pull off and what they need to pull off. And then presenting our solution as the bridge there. Does that make sense, guys? So because any discussion of price at this stage is pure fantasy without this verification. All right. So I'm going to go back through your meetings. Benton, B-A-N-T. Mark says, can you clarify the wouldn't take my call part? So we're calling them because they submitted a lead. They answered the phone. So they're taking your call. They're still on the phone with you at this point. So that's why I'm saying you wouldn't even pick up the phone or submit a lead if you thought you could do this on your own. That's basically what we're saying, Mark. And George say, does this shit really work during yes, it does, dude. Like we do this every day. But again, your tonality is how this makes this work. So Benton says the design and budget removes the uncertainty, makes everything known and consequently actionable on their end. Yep. So guys, if they're not a fit, you'd say, you know, Sam, this project really isn't a fit for us at this time. I think you'll be better served working with so-and-so or such and such. Would you like their phone number? So we invested 15 minutes, out we go. Okay. But if they are a fit, we just locked in our site visit. And we're going to go over the site visit tomorrow. So what did we achieve in this call, guys? We got their logical need. We get their emotional need. We get their timeline. We smoked out their budget. The only thing we haven't figured out is the authority, and we're going to do that at the site visit. But we are 3/4 of the way to being able to close a legitimate deal. And this is why my portfolio partners only hear no when the project owner is legitimately broke. And the process is designed to wear them out, not to be super persuasive, but just to wear them down, to get to, you know, a transparent, all cards on the table, to know if you guys are a fit or not. In other words, do they got the money? Great, you got the time. Does that make sense? Quote the great Willie Nelson. Yeah, so Ben said, yeah, you should have a list of competitors on hand. Yeah, I send them to a competitor all the time. And I love sending these quals to a competitor because it really slows them the fuck down and they have no idea. So Julie says, what about the, I need to speak to my spouse, and do you request all? No, because the site visit, we're still not presenting at the site visit. We're presenting at the proposal presentation. And so that's why we're going to figure out who the decision makers are at the site visit. And then we're going to schedule the appointment for everybody. And if I ever hear, oh, my wife works, I can't, it'll just be me, or, oh, my husband works, it'll just be me. Then I'll turn around and hit them with another question of, so what do you think they're going to say about this project if I come in at blank price? Right. So Benton says closing at the third meeting when all the inflow is, yeah. All we're doing is in the qual call, we're framing the game. We're getting the information we need to run downhill, while our competitors are working off of assumptions and gut feelings, and they're going the opposite direction, uphill, because the more we meet with them, the easier it's going to get. A human being typically needs 9 touches to make a decision of whether they're going to buy or not. So the more of these touch points we can engineer, the better this is going to be. So let's talk about those touch points. Number 1, they submitted a lead. Number 2, they got your qual call. In between the qual call and the site visit, they get the consumer awareness guide, the design guide, the project management guide. Then we have the site visit. Then we take we shoot our first shot at the proposal. Okay. Then we have another meeting, right? To review to handle their responses or their rebuttals. And then we shoot our shot again. And in the policy I have with my project directors is there are only 2 acceptable outcomes in this process. Either you collect a contract and a check, or you set another appointment. And you keep setting appointments until they prove to you they don't have the money. And we will invent reasons, and you'll see why in objection handling. I'll teach you how to invent reasons to give the homeowner, specifically to give the homeowner a reason of what's in it for them to have another meeting with you. Because no one's going to agree to another sales meeting to just be put on the rack and stretched again. We need to give them something that would be in it for them. And I'm going to show you how to manufacture that. Does that make sense, guys? Like I'm sharing with you shit that I do not want this to be public. All right. So at that point, if you have any questions about this, hit me in Slack. This recording will be up by tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so if you have any questions, hit me. I can't wait to see you guys again tomorrow at 5 to go over site visit. For Jada and for Randy. Hold on a second. Let me pull up. We are going to get to your specific spins on this Wednesday. So what I want you guys to do is to absorb this training for Qual, Call, and site visit. Absorb, like I'm going to explain the principles behind it. And then after Wednesday, I want you guys to jump on my calendar so that we can massage this process for your specific trades of paint and flooring. Is that cool? Can I get a thumbs up? Like a yay or a 1? Awesome. So Sam, to everybody, I sold a 31K design agreement. Yes. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Hey, that brings up a point. So guys, we have a contest. I'm glad I didn't turn off the recording because we have a contest and about 10 grand worth of stuff is on the line for the top 5 of you. All right. So cut and paste. Okay. So for the rest of this boot camp, if you sign a design deal, which go to Quentin, he's already got 1. So that's 10 points. That's 1. You get 10 points. And so I'm going to, and then I'm going to put right here points. Right. So you sell a build project during boot camp, you sell a design deal during boot camp, 10 points. You make a design proposal presentation, 3 points. A site visit, 2 points. Architect, engineer, designer, realtor, one-on-ones, 1 point. Referral blitzes, that's you're heading the office of any of these 4, 2 points. The top 6 in the boot camp, and there's 16 of you, will get a $10,000 credit towards full Remodel Commander. And that starts today. Okay. That's right. So let's get after it. Sam, Quentin, thank you for making this dramatic and easy for me. All right, guys, on the recording, I hope everybody got something out of this. I'm telling you, this process is going to be the difference from a 1 in 10, like you mastering this process. The average PD, when they come into my system, they're about a 1 in 10 closer. I call that the Ray Charles close ratio, because anybody who's blind can grope their way into 1 in 10 deals. Okay, guys, can you go to mute real quick? But by mastering this process and getting your marketing wired in, you will be a 2 in 5 to 1 in 2 closer. And that saves you a crazy amount of money. All right. So if you have any questions, hit me on Slack. This is the contest. We're going to review the scoreboard at the beginning of every call. And let's let the games begin. Let's stop the recording. Oh, shoot. Julie, how do we stop the recording? I guess we can't. Julie, your AI confused me. Would you send me the recording when this is done? All righty. All righty. Thanks, guys. So everybody be good, and I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. See ya.